I have some starter coming on good and strong. So I'm going to go ahead and start another loaf. Starter's kind of like an encouragement to make bread. It's always growing. It's like Amazon Prime. You pay the fee, so you keep shopping. Okay, I want about half a cup of dark rye. And I think this time I'm going to try some buckwheat, something I've never tried before. So that's 1 cup, and I'll put in about half and half of whole wheat and white flour. Whole grain, whole wheat, and bread flour. While we're talking about flours, I found that the flours that do the best job of making the dough rise are the ones that proudly display how much protein they've got. The ones that don't say anything about it simply don't work as well. Surprise, surprise. So I've got a total of 2 cups of flour and 1 cup of water. I'm going to just mix it up and let it set. I just remembered something I wanted to try with my next rye bread. Some fennel seed. Even though there's only a fourth of the dough is rye, I call it rye bread because that's the dominant flavor. That's quite a bit. I'm gonna try some fennel seed. Go a little heavier. I love the it's kind of a licorice flavor of fennel, and I read that it goes well with rye. So I'm going to give it a try. So this is just water, the flours, 4 different flours, fennel seed, and I'm just letting the flour soak in the water for maybe an hour or so. So now what I want to do is add my salt and sourdough. Oh, I want about a half cup of sourdough. That should do right there. Keeping an eye on my breakfast over there. So I want no more than a level teaspoon. This is a real small amount of dough for my little toaster oven, so it's easy to over salt. I don't like bread without salt, but it's easy to get too much too. So I'm going to just go ahead and mix this up, put the plastic back over it, let it set, and start the stretching routine. The dough with all of its ingredients has been sitting for about an hour. Now I'm going to do the first stretch. I'll do 3 or 4 of these dough stretches about an hour apart. Actually, whenever I happen to walk through the kitchen again, I'll give it a stretch. This is stretch number 2, and I'll repeat this process a time or two over the next several hours. But I don't think I'm going to film it because there's nothing new to show. I'm afraid I spaced out and went, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours since my last stretch. So this will be the last one. I'll put the loaf in the fridge overnight. It feels good. I had pretty good luck with this last time, so I'm just going to use it again. Okay, I gotta remember to leave my bottom up. Okay, so this is going into the fridge for 12, 14, at least 14 hours, depending on how late I sleep. Good morning. I slept in. I'll get this coffee started and I'll pull the dough out of the fridge. Little rice flour. Feels like talcum powder. Does a great job of keeping the dough from sticking to the pan. Let's see. I'm just gonna let that sit here and warm up. Sometimes I just go from the fridge to the oven, but I'm gonna let it warm up this time. Knife. Score it a couple times. And this time I think I'm going to cover it. That's not the pan I want. There it is. I think I'm going to do this. Give it a little dome. And the oven needs a little water. All the way up, bake, and I'll just give it plenty of time for now. I need to tend to my coffee. It's flowing over. Okay, so I'm gonna let the toaster oven warm up this time. Sometimes I put the bread in after it's warmed up with a cold oven. Sometimes cold bread, cold oven, sometimes hot oven, cold bread. And it all works, and it just, each time it's a little different character, and I think it's a good way to learn to change the variables a little bit. Okay, the microwave, or not the microwave, but the toaster oven's warmed up. It looks like the dough has opened up a little bit where I gave it a couple of slices. And I can see that all my water is already evaporated. But I think with this cover, the glass dome, it'll be alright. So we'll just go ahead and set this to 30 minutes. I heard the ding, so we should have something in here. I'm going to let that set for just a minute before I touch anything. Especially that glass bowl, that's going to be the hot part. In the meantime, I'm going to stir up a little bit of sourdough pancake batter. Let's see, that's rice. This is my discard of my starter. I've got regular. I'll just use regular. I want to try rye pancakes though. So I'll pour a little bit of the suspicious looking foamy stuff in a mixing bowl. Add an egg. A little milk. Not too much. And let's see, I need a little leaven. That may seem like a duplicate here, but the sourdough starter is not the leavening for these pancakes. It's just the flour. Oops, a little much. So about that much. This is baking powder. And I'm kind of a cinnamon fan. I like just a little bit, not very much. I don't want to know that it's cinnamon when I taste it. Just a hint. Let me turn this oven up a little bit. Give this a stir. And I think a bit of salt is called for here. Pan's getting warm. I like using avocado oil. So I don't know if you can see the flame. I'd call that medium. A little oil on there. Oil swished around. Preheat my plate. I also like to preheat my syrup so that it doesn't chill my pancake. I don't need a whole lot. I like the real maple syrup. I know it's expensive. It's probably the most expensive part of my breakfast, but it's so good. And once it's bubbly, this is where a guy can make a mess. Butter is good on anything. Okay, it should be about ready. Top it with a little warm syrup. I'm sorry if awkward interruptions turn out in my video. My camera was beeping at me and I just kept pushing the button to turn it back on, and the battery was going dead. So here's this little loaf I wanted to open up, see what it looks like inside. It's interesting. I remember putting 2 slashes in it, and the lower slash healed. It didn't do a thing. And the upper one opened up the way I like. Even created that classic looking little ear. So let's cut this guy open and see what it looks like. It's not bad. It's got pretty even bubbles. The bubbles aren't as big as with, the wheat loaves, but it's not bad. Nice thing about experimenting with these little loaves is if something turns out that's not so good and it's so bad you don't even want to eat it, it's no big loss. Maybe a quarter's worth of flour. I wish I could send flavors or taste over the internet. Darn tasty. So my starter is not ready yet. I used the rubber band to show the level that the starter was at when I fed it this morning. And I like for the starter to double or nearly double and get good and frothy before I use it again. It's pretty frothy. But I'm gonna let it sit for a while. My house stays at 68 degrees. I like a cool house. And at night it cools down to 64. So my starter and dough proofing probably takes a little longer than most people. And that's alright. I just adjust my recipe or processes to accommodate the existing variables. I don't have thermometers and scales and all that stuff. What I'm doing is based on the lessons that I've learned right here in this kitchen, and that's what works for me. And I get some great bread. And in fact, that's the problem that I'm having now, is that my midsection is growing, and that's probably why I'm more reluctant to show myself in these videos, is I'm ashamed of my waistline. It's growing kind of like my dough rises. So I'll pick up a little later when I start something else. Thanks for watching this video.